Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we dig into different sources to find, well, the really interesting stuff, turning complex info into surprising facts and insights you can actually use.
And today we've got something special. It's a rugby obsession deep dive.
That's right. We're looking at a really candid admission from Springboks head coach Rassie Erasmus, a huge name in rugby.
Absolutely. And it's about a past mistake, a misjudgment he made concerning veteran fullback Willie le Roux.
And the timing is pretty incredible, right? It comes just as le Roux is about to hit his 100th test match. A massive milestone.
It really is. So, our mission today, we want to unpack what's hidden in this story. It's more than just rugby.
Definitely. It tells us a lot about, perception, how we see people, what passion really looks like, and the sometimes twisty path of a pro athlete.
And how someone as sharp as Erasmus could get an initial impression so well, so wrong. It's fascinating.
And hey, if you find this kind of story compelling the human side of sport, especially rugby, then you should definitely subscribe to Rugby Obsession.
Yeah, you'll get more insights like this, more deep dives into the world of rugby. It's where we keep these conversations going.
Okay, so let's get into it. This initial misjudgment. Rassie Erasmus. Maybe set the scene a bit. Who is he for anyone who might not follow rugby that closely?
Sure. Rassie Erasmus is genuinely one of the most influential figures in modern rugby. We're talking about the strategic mind behind the Springboks winning back-to-back World Cups, 2019 and 2023.
Which is almost unheard of, right?
Exactly. He's known for his tactics, his ability to really bring a team together. But even with all that experience, he admits he got something fundamentally wrong about a player early on.
And this is where it gets kind of unbelievable. Back when they were both at the Stormers, the club in Cape Town, Erasmus had a pretty harsh take on Willie le Roux.
He did. He openly said he thought le Roux was, and this is a quote, not capable of playing for even the Stormers.
Wow. Not even for the Stormers. Not just maybe not good enough for the Springboks, but not even for a major provincial team. That's heavy.
It's a huge call from a coach like him, a potentially career-ending kind of judgment.
So what was the reasoning? Why did he think that?
Well, Erasmus pointed specifically to what he saw as le Roux's emotional outbursts on the pitch.
Ah, okay, so he saw that passion, that visible emotion, as a negative, as a lack of control.
Precisely. He saw it as a weakness, maybe a sign le Roux didn't have the mental toughness needed for the top level. It wasn't just a small doubt, it was like a fundamental misreading of who the player was.
Which really sets up the power of his later admission, doesn't it? This huge distance between that first impression and where le Roux ended up.
Absolutely. It paints a picture of a coach seeing something, making a quick, decisive judgment, maybe too quick.
But players don't just disappear, especially not someone who ends up playing 100 tests. So something must have changed Erasmus's mind. What was the turning point?
There was a key moment. It actually came from a conversation Erasmus had quite a bit later with Dai Young.
Dai Young, the former Wasps coach.
That's the one. Young had coached le Roux when he played for Wasps in England. And their chat wasn't just a throwaway comment. It fundamentally shifted how Erasmus saw le Roux.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What did Dai Young say that was so impactful? What was the insight?
Young gave Erasmus this explanation that Erasmus says really stuck with me. He told him about le Roux's emotions on the pitch. It's because he cares so much, he doesn't hide his emotions.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a simple sentence, but it flips the whole thing on its head, doesn't it?
Completely. It was like a key unlocking a door. What Erasmus first saw as a negative, these outbursts, this visible frustration, maybe Young reframed it.
He reframed it as raw passion, as evidence of how much le Roux cared about the game, about the team, about winning. Not a lack of control, but an excess of commitment.
Exactly. So invested that he couldn't, or maybe just wouldn't, put a lid on it. It wasn't unprofessionalism. It was the engine driving him.
And Erasmus realized that maybe when le Roux looked down or unhappy, it wasn't about his teammates or anything like that.
Right. It was simply, as Erasmus put it, just how much he cares. His passion was just visible, sometimes maybe dramatically so. Erasmus admitted he mistook that signal completely at first.
That's a huge lesson, isn't it? Looking beyond the surface behavior. How often do we maybe do that in our own lives, see intensity and just label it as negativity?
Happens all the time. In work, with friends, anywhere, really. You see someone intense and the easy label is difficult or negative.
But maybe that intensity is actually their strength, their deep care. It's a great reminder. So this realization obviously didn't hold le Roux back. Quite the opposite.
Oh, absolutely. After that initial write-off, Willie le Roux just went on to build this incredible career. Which brings us to this huge milestone he's about to hit.
His 100th test match for the Springboks. Against Italy, you said.
That's right, becoming only the 8th player in Springbok history to reach that century mark.
100 caps. It's hard to really grasp the scale of that. Like Erasmus said, you don't just play 100 test matches for your country.
No, you really don't. Think about it performing at the absolute peak internationally for more than a decade. The physical toll, the mental pressure, representing your nation. It's immense.
It speaks volumes about durability, skill, consistency, and just a deep love for wearing that jersey. 8th player ever. That really puts it in perspective.
It does. And he wasn't just making up the numbers either. He was central to some massive Springbok wins.
Like the World Cups.
Absolutely. Crucial in the 2019 Rugby World Cup win. His game management, his kicking, his vision, all vital. And then he was there again, contributing significantly to the 2023 title defense.
2 World Cup medals. Not many players have that on their CV.
Very few. And then there's the British and Irish Lions series win in 2021, another huge achievement.
Right, that only happens every 12 years. And le Roux's experience in those pressure cooker games would have been invaluable.
Totally. And remember, his career wasn't just the Springboks. He played at Wasps, where Day Young gave Erasmus that insight. He played for the Cheetahs, too. It shows sustained quality over a long period.
So back to Rassie Erasmus. How does he feel now, looking back at that initial, pretty brutal assessment? Especially now, with le Roux hitting 100 caps.
He's remarkably candid about it, very open. He just puts his hand up and says, I definitely made a mistake by not keeping him at the Stormers.
That takes something, doesn't it? For a coach of his stature to publicly admit a mistake like that?
It really does. It's not just admitting an error. It's acknowledging it could have changed history in a way for le Roux and maybe even for the Springboks.
And it sounds like he's genuinely pleased he was wrong. Not defensive about it.
Not at all. That's the key thing. He sounds genuinely happy, genuinely proud of what le Roux has achieved despite that early call. He uses words like very happy, very proud.
That shows real character, I think. To celebrate someone proving your judgment wrong. It's about their success, not about you being right initially.
Exactly. It's a great example of maybe growth in leadership.
Yeah.
Being able to see past your own initial biases and celebrate the reality of someone's achievement. It makes you wonder, how often do we struggle with that? Being happy to be proven wrong.
It's a tough one sometimes. So let's connect this back to the listener. What are the big takeaways here beyond just the rugby field? This rugby obsession deep dive seems to offer more.
I think it's a powerful lesson about first impressions, especially when they're based on, outward emotional displays. They can be really misleading.
Yeah, it really highlights how important it is to try and understand the why behind someone's actions. What looks like one thing on the surface
Might be driven by something completely different underneath, like intense passion or deep care, looking like negativity or instability if you don't look closer.
It challenges us to pause before making those snap judgments, doesn't it?
Definitely. And it also says something about the value of passion itself, even if it looks a bit messy or unconventional.
Right. Maybe we sometimes value composure or control too much and dismiss the raw energy that comes from intense caring. That intensity le Roux had, it wasn't a bug, it was a feature.
It was the fuel. And if Erasmus had stuck rigidly to his first assessment, think what might have been lost. 2 World Cups, maybe? Le Roux's whole Bok career under him.
It's a reminder to dig deeper, to try and understand different ways people express their commitment, to create space for that, maybe.
I think so, both in sport and, well, everywhere else. So for you listening, what really stands out from this?
Yeah, we'd love to hear your thoughts. What part of this story resonates with you? Let us know. And again, if you want more conversations like this, exploring the deeper side of rugby.
Then make sure you subscribe to Rugby Obsession. That's where we keep unpacking these stories.
Okay, so just to wrap up our Rugby Obsession deep dive for today, we've looked at a top coach admitting a big mistake.
And a player whose passion, first seen as a flaw, turned out to be the driving force behind an incredible career, culminating in this huge 100-cap milestone.
It's a story about humility, about seeing past the surface, and about the power of understanding, really.
Definitely.
So here's a final thought for you to chew on. How might we unlock potential in sports? Sure, but also in our jobs, in our communities, even in ourselves, if we learned to better recognize and embrace different ways passion shows up.
Even the ways that seem a bit difficult or unconventional at first glance.
Exactly. What talent are we maybe missing because it doesn't fit the neat little box we expect? Something to think about.
Thank you for joining us on this Rugby Obsession deep dive.
We look forward to you listening to our next episode.